What is going on, guys? Salty is back with another build video. Build-a-thon, day number 7. I know it's late, but we're still getting it out there. Today, I'm bringing you the only restoration build you will ever need for your Solar Warlock. This build is good for soloing dungeons, it's good for Grandmasters, it's good for Legend Onslaught, it's good for raids. Whatever it is in the game, you name it, it is good for you. It is the only restoration build on a Warlock you will ever need. So starting off with the abilities, we're going with Phoenix Dive. You know we're going with Burst Glide, Incinerator Snap, and Healing Grenade. For our aspects, we're going with Touch of Flame and Heat Rises. Onto our fragments, we're going with Ember of Empyrean, Ember of Char, Ember of Singeing, and Ember of Solace. For our exotic, we are going with Phoenix Protocol, and the exotic perk is called Battle Hearth. So kills and assists inside of our Well of Radiance is actually going to give us super energy back. And if you run this in Onslaught, you are going to be able to chain wells back to back to back to back as long as you are slaying out when you're standing inside of it. Onto our head mods, I run a heavy ammo finder and a scout so we can make heavy for ourselves and our teammates, as well as a harmonic siphon so that our solar weapons and rapid kills will generate us orbs of power. For the arm mods, I run heavy-handed so we can make even more orbs with the incinerator snap. Then I also run an impact induction so that our incinerator snap is going to feed us grenade energy back, so we should always have our healing grenade back. And then if you want to, this is optional, I like to run it because I like chucking nades. It is Fastball. And Fastball actually comes in really clutch with this build because, I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I've been doing a Legend Onslaught and a teammate of mine was off doing something across the map or a distance away from me, and I see an exclamation point kind of like above their head, and I just chucked the grenade and landed right on him, saved him. It's a really good perk to use, you just gotta get used to it, because the grenades really do go far. On to the chest mods, it's all preference. I always run the resist mods. You can run whatever you want here. I know some people like to run reserves, but I run resist just because I like to stay alive. For the leg mods, I run 2 weapon surges. I highly recommend just running whatever the weapon surges are for your heavy slot weapon. If you have the room for it, you can also run a recuperation. I never do though. The 2 weapon surges plus the perk for the stats, it takes up all my energy. But if you have the extra slot, then you know recuperation is always a good option as well. For the class item mods, you know we're going with Font of Restoration and Time Dilation so that our armor charges are going to last a little bit longer. And how all of this is going to tie together is our Touch of Flame is going to give the Cure and Restoration increased strength from the healing grenades. And then when we consume our healing grenade with Heat Rises and Touch of Flame, it's going to give us Restoration ×1 to you and your allies. That being said, if your allies aren't around or if you're soloing something, you can just throw that healing grenade at your feet, and it's going to give you Restoration ×1 as well. Consuming it is really only just for your allies and for proccing Heat Rises. If you're in a bind, you can throw it at your feet. It gives you the same thing, you just don't have Heat Rises. While you have your Restoration active from your healing grenade, jump into the air and activate Phoenix Dive, and that's going to give you Restoration ×2. And now you have Resto ×2, and you are good to go with that. So we pair all of that with Ember of Solace, so that our Restoration and our Radiant buffs are going to have increased duration, as well as Ember of Empyrean, which is going to extend the time of Restoration and Radiant buffs applied to you when you get solar weapon kills. So run solar weapons in your second slot. I always use Zallies with this, or Sunshot. They're really good weapons for this, and it's just going to keep feeding your timer for Restoration ×2 and for Radiant. It's just going to keep pumping it up and up and up and up, and you should, like, if there's a lot of ads, you should be able to keep it up for a long time. Then we pair those with Ember of Char, so that our ignitions from the incinerator snap is going to spread Scorch to other targets. And then Ember of Singeing, so the Scorch stacks is going to give us our class ability back, so we can always have our Phoenix Dive and our grenade back. Going further, we pair all of that with the arm mods, Impact Induction on our arms, so that we can always have our grenade with Phoenix Dive, and always be able to activate Restoration ×2 pretty much on command if you do it right. Now that being said, that's not always going to play out like that. I know it certainly doesn't for me, because I get like really tunnel vision-y, and I start running around, and sometimes I find myself like wasting my abilities, but my armor my stats usually bring it back pretty quick. But that happens to me a lot. I know it doesn't always play out perfectly, but in like a perfect game, if you pair it all together, you should always have your abilities 100% feeding each other and cycling into each other. You should always have them up. Your armor mods, and your fragments should always be feeding each other. And your abilities, I mean, they should just be feeding each other 24/7. That's how all these builds are. And again, I know it doesn't always work like that, but in a nutshell, that's what they should be doing. And again, this build is good for literally any activity in the game. I mean, I've ran this build in Legend Onslaught. I ran it in the solo dungeon when I was trying to get my title for Warlords. I ran it in Grandmasters. I ran it in Raids. I've ran this build everywhere. It's honestly one of my top 5 favorite builds, just because of the survivability and how well it really works. I mean, especially when you're soloing. I mean, if you're soloing a boss, like for example, when I was soloing Warlord's Ruin, and I popped my well down, and there was a bunch of ads around me, and I shot Dragon's Breath into that first boss, and the ignitions were going off on that, and it was scorching everything around it. I mean, my well was, back by the next damage phase. I mean, it was just there. Plus all the orbs you make with the Incinerator Snap and the slower weapon kills. I mean, your well is just back so fast. I really highly recommend you give this build a try. It's so much fun to use. And if you want to stay alive, it's really good, especially with Pantheon. I cannot tell you how many times this build saved me in Pantheon, because I run Gaze a lot. Because my crew that I run with, a lot of people don't really know Gaze that much, or aren't comfortable running Gaze. So I run Gaze a lot, and sometimes those Minotaurs and those Axion Darts, they can be a bit much. So Healing Grenade really does come in clutch. But I hope you liked the video. That's going to be it for this one, and I will see you guys tomorrow on the next one. I'm also going to be live tomorrow. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing yet. I haven't decided if I'm just going to be doing Preparation or Pantheon, or if I'm going to be doing Grandmaster carries. I know this weekend I'm going to be live for Saturday and Sunday, and I'm going to be doing GM carries and GM help for anyone who needs it. That being said, again, see you guys on the next one. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye!